Very often, in our rush to write exactly what we want right now, we sometimes forget something. No one starts out great. Few people even start decent right out the gate. Before you can make fan work that people love, you've got to start grinding your skills. Often on work you'd never dream of showing anyone. It's clumsy and clunky, and the characters are more like caricatures of their canon selves. But you've still got to keep at it. You've got to get through the bad stuff before you hit anything good. And believe me, I went through a ton of duds before I wrote anything I remotely liked. There was the attempted sequel to Chrono Trigger that never got past the first two chapters, the sequel to Lunar with a whole herd of original characters that I think I wrote maybe 12 paragraphs of, the Skies of Arcadia story involving a made-up slave trade that never existed in the games, just a bunch of ideas that had a lot of flash to them, but not enough substance to get them past maybe one or two chapters. It wasn't until I was in college that I finally got an idea that I liked for a Persona 3 fic, and a separate Digital Devil Saga fic to accompany it. And for a three-part story, it took me months to get anything done. While I was trying to write this story, I ended up going through one semester of college, one family vacation to Turkey, and it wasn't until the very end of summer that I finally decided, hey, I've proofread and revised this thing 3 times, maybe I should post it. And I did. One chapter at a time because I still wasn't done revising the ending. I also swiftly embarrassed myself when one of my favorite authors showed up and said, nice story, but just FYI, you're mixing up your thens and your thans. And more than a little red-faced, I went in and made the edits. But I did learn something through that, and I had my foot in the door, in a sense. And it got a little easier after that, if only by a little. I wasn't pushing a boulder up a hill any longer, or at least I was pushing a boulder with a few extra tools. But even then I still started up stories that ended up going nowhere just because the inspiration evaporated. I wasn't hitting everything out of the park, but I was at least taking swings, and each story I finished, it was something to be proud of for a short time, at least until inspiration hit for the next idea. And I think that's the common story for a lot of people. There's a lot of tripping points in the path before you hit your stride, or at least I hope it is. Otherwise, I'm gonna be feeling really silly it took me this long to figure everything out. And I'll gladly admit I'm still learning something new with each project. One of my favorite pieces of advice is do your best each time. Better your best each time. I try to keep that in mind whenever I start out on a new project, even if it's as dorky as a fanfic project. Point is, there's always something in all those attempted or successful fanfics to improve on. At first it was, make sure I don't mix up my thens and my thans. Then it was, stop relying on ellipsis and semicolons so much. Then, on the advice of the fantastic beta reader, I tried to reduce the number of as words I used in each chapter, and any time during the editing, if I came across ellipsis or semicolons or as or other words that I was overusing, I try to figure out if I really needed those or if I could use something else. It's a work in progress that stretches across a lot of little mini-works, in a sense. Confidence in my writing is also a work in progress. There's days I can go, well, I'm pretty sure I'm moving forward, and that one sentence I wrote was kind of cool. And then there's the other days, where I can barely look at what I've written, and my stream of thought goes something like, oh god, what's going on here? Why did I think it was okay to even use an ellipsis and the prose is so clunky, and I should just put a paper bag on my head and hide under my desk? But at the same time, not writing is also unthinkable, because I don't improve by just sitting on the couch and playing video games or watching cat videos. Though, playing video games and cat videos are important for the downtime and recharge factor. Ahem. Point being, doing nothing also yields nothing. Even if I fall flat on my face with my writing, well, it's a few more words than what I'd have written before. The perfect is the enemy of the good. That was another phrase I was introduced to at some point in college, and I've kept that in my head ever since. Let's say, assuming for a second that perfection is even possible. In the effort to reach it, I'd have to discard and ignore a ton of story ideas, perfectly good story ideas, since I'd be so fixated on making that one perfect story. And while that might be fine for some creative types to get that one masterpiece done and out there, I'm restless. And spending forever on one project and potentially stagnating on that one project doesn't hold much appeal for me. Also, on any given day, I've got a turf war going on inside my head for different story ideas. I could be writing for decades, and I wouldn't be able to clear them all. And personally, I think it's better to make progress with trying different things and learning different things as a result. Leaning on the fourth wall a bit, that goes for any creative project. Fan art, fanfic, making YouTube videos. Mistakes will be made, and that's fine as long as you learn from it, particularly if you can gauge some sort of progress. A part of this mindset might also be because I've built a habit out of writing, somewhere between it being a hobby and a compulsion. When I was in college, I started carrying a pocket notebook around and writing down anything that caught my eye or stuck out. And following that, I spent 3 summers in a row writing something each day. Between the constant writing and tiny rewards I gave myself, and pro tip as an aside on that, candy tends to be an excellent motivator, it eventually became as habitual and natural as brushing my teeth each day. Not doing my writing made me feel off kilter and more than a little weird. And I'd like to think that along the way I got a little bit better. Just like exercising builds muscles and stamina, so does daily writing build up your skills in stringing words together, or at least boosts your confidence a little. So keep writing, keep improving. Be comfortable with not getting it right the first time because you'll get that little bit closer to right on the second, the third, and more times. So with that all said, guys, I'll see you next time. Until then, take care and write better fanfic.